All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the October 2023 retail meeting, F.o.R.M, Future of Retail Mesa meeting. I have a guest with me today. Very excited to have him with us today because we've been trying to get him in here for months. Super glad that we were finally able to coordinate schedules and get him in here. Jatred Archambault is with the City of Mesa, and he's with Signage Compliance. What exactly do you do?
I am the Business and Commercial Code Compliance Officer. So basically I do signs, nuisance, and zoning education for all business and commercial properties throughout the City of Mesa.
Ooh, that's a lot.
It's a little bit of a lot.
There's a lot of mileage in Mesa you got to cover. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jatred is here today because he's going to cover some things. I'm going to share the screen here and then get out of the way and let him take over so that he can do his presentation. Pay attention. We are recording this for the cloud so that we'll make this available to members and others online so you can catch up if you missed something. So Jatred, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get the screen shared and we'll get you going.
Thank you.
Jatred is now going to give his presentation. Mr. Archambault.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Jatred Archambault. I'm the Business and Commercial Code Compliance Officer for the City of Mesa, and I'm here to talk about signage. We're going to start out kind of, explaining what kind of signage we have, types, and everything like that. So let's get going. For the agenda today, we're going to talk about permanent signs, the difference between permanent signs and portable signs, signage in the right-of-way, prohibited signage, and then we're going to have any Q&A if needed. So our first topic is to talk about permanent signage. We basically have two major types of permanent signs. We have attached and detached signs. If you look at the imagery above, the middle imagery is attached signage. The American Credit Union, that's an attached permanent sign. And then if you look to the right of those, you'll see that the Starlight Hotel Motel and the other one are what we consider detached signs. Then the far left side of the page, you have a window sign, and that's another permanent sign allowance type. And we have different allowances based on the zoning of the property. For instance, there's the downtown zoning, there's limited commercial zoning, general commercial, industrial zoning. So that's what we mean by zoning districts. So we're going to first talk about the two different types. There's some examples here. So the attached signage is basically these letters and anchors, or letters attached or anchored to standard raceways. So if you look at the attached signage, that's singular. That's an example of an individual letter sign attached to a raceway. And then below that, you'll see a detached rigid sign, which is the medical office building. That's an example of what our current design guidelines are for permanent signs. So we do have a specific guidelines that we focus on to make sure that we have aesthetics and a variety of signage throughout the city. We do have permit requirements for signage. So all signs greater than 6 square feet in size require a permit. Then all signs that have structural components or electrical components, no matter the size, require a permit. The reason they require a permit is because when you have structural components or electrical components, they have to follow building standards, so national building standards. So an inspector would come out and make sure that they were installed to our building standards. And then another sign, no matter the size, is an electronic message board sign. The reason electronic message board sign requires a permit is because there is a certificate that you have to get with an electronic message board sign that basically saying that you agree to the light levels that we have when it comes to anything near a residential area. And at night, we have a nighttime light level requirement so that you're not blinding people like who are driving, etc. So it's for public safety purposes. So those are two of the different types of permanent signs that would require a permit. These are signs that you would put on the front of your building or your suite, or a property owner would put out towards the street on their property, which would be the detached. The other form of permanent sign allowance that we'd like to discuss is window signs. Window signs do not count against your permanent sign allowance as long as you stay within the allowable amount. So for the downtown core, anything in the downtown business and business 2 zone properties, that's 30%. And we calculate a window as multiple panes or panels that are separated by 6 inches or less. So if you have a large window that have multiple panes, as long as that pane separation is 6 inches or less, that would be one window. So that would increase your window sign allowance. So the 30% of that entire window area is what you can cover in signage, which includes imagery and text. In all other zonings, limited commercial, general commercial, industrial, just about all the other zoning types are 25%. So you can cover your windows in 25%. They can cover the whole area of the window as long as only 25% is signage. So if you want to put something that crosses the span of your windows, as long as that calculation is 25%, it's completely allowed. Now we're going to move on to portable and temporary signs. I'm going to start out with what's called rigid signs, because these are really allowed in most of the zone properties. So a rigid sign is a sign that's made from durable non-plant materials such as wood, sheet metal, plastic, or other lightweight rigid materials. This would include like a rigid A-frame. I have some examples on the side here. The top one is an A-frame. The second image below that is an attached rigid sign. And then the one below that is a detached rigid sign. The detached rigid sign is one of the ones that I like to promote the most, because it's allowed on many properties and many zonings throughout the city. And with those, you can, in most commercial properties, you can do 12 square feet, which would be 3 by 4, 2 by 6, or 1 by 12 feet. So it's pretty large. It doesn't require a permit to have, and it doesn't have a time limitation like our fabric signs do. So a detached rigid sign is basically a sign that's affixed to a post or stake that penetrates the ground. And the important thing to remember about that is it cannot be permanently placed. So you can't have like a concrete footer. It can't be concreted in, or it would be then considered a permanent sign. But these are really good options for signage if you need something a little bit longer term. Again, they're still temporary or portable, but they're great options. The other sign type for portable is fabric signs. Fabric signs are allowed, but they're only allowed for 30 calendar days per year. We have what's called a detached banners. Those are fabric signs that are attached to a stake or post that penetrates the ground. Then you have the wall ones that are affixed to a building or wall or fence. You have air activated, which are those whirly, inflatable arm moving activated signs, which I love because it reminds me of that show. And then you have balloons. Balloons are allowed as well, but we do have height requirements for those, and they still have, size-wise, still have to fit with the zoning of the property. And if anybody has any questions regarding what you can have and what you need, then you can just contact me and I can provide that information. I would just need to know your address and some other information about your property. But these are several types of fabric signs that we do allow in a lot of the commercial properties. Some of these aren't allowed in residential, but we're focusing mostly on commercial today. Again, these would require a banner use permit to have, and they're only allowed for 30 calendar days. So on the banner use permit, you'd have to fill out these 30 dates. Now, they don't have to be consecutive, but they do have to be, you have to abide by those dates when you're placing out your sign. The next area that I'd like to talk about are signs in the right-of-way. Portable signs are not permitted in the city right-of-way. Any signs are not allowed in the city right-of-way, but most of the time you'll see portable signs there. We don't allow them because it takes away from our street signs, directional signs, things like that. We don't want to cause confusion. You are allowed to put it in your property line near the right-of-way, however. The City of Mesa right-of-way is located between the property line and the street edge. So this example right here kind of shows you where the property line is. Property line is the yellow area around the parking lot area. And then the right-of-way is the yellow brackets. And so the only way that you would be able to put any signage in the right-of-way area is if you're in a downtown core zone property, a mixed-use property, or a transect zone property. Those properties do not have much space between their building and the property line. So with a proper permit, which you can obtain, you can place signage in there if you're within that zoning. So anybody in the downtown core, anybody, which is basically, First Ave to First Street from Mesa Drive to Country Club is basically the downtown core. And then mixed use is just the type of zoning if you have a mixed use building. So it's like, live, work, eat kind of development. So it's really important to note that if you do place signage in the right of way, we are allowed to remove them. So I would just recommend, if you have any questions about the right of way, to contact me. The next one are prohibited signs. I'd like to go over this just so you understand, what isn't permitted because of, just multiple reasons, but a lot of it's public safety. One that's not permitted, it is an allowable use in residential, but we do not permit them in commercial properties. Those are semi-rigid signs. Semi-rigid sign is made from a cardboard, foam core, thin plastic, paper-like, or quasi-rigid material. So it's a less durable material. I always associate them with like those political signs. It's that, plastic kind of foam core kind of thing. Those aren't allowed in commercial properties anywhere in the city. They're only allowed in residential areas. Another ones are discontinued signs. A discontinued sign is basically a sign that has been on a building where the occupant hasn't been there for more than 180 days. So you have 6 months to remove a sign from a tenant or from your property if they stop being there or have moved. Another one are pennants and streamers. I see a lot of these. This is one of the biggest reasons why I stop at a lot of properties. Pennants and streamers and whirligigs are not permitted, mostly because in our environment, in the heat and everything like that, they kind of degrade real easily. The wind will take them and throw them out in the street. So they're just really easy to just fall apart, and they can be a hazard. So we do not allow pennants or streamers, and that is one thing that we do like to educate about. Portable message center signs, those are basically a sign that's attached to a trailer that you kind of move around. You kind of see them in certain commercial applications for like when they're doing road closures. Those are kind of a portable message center sign. However, in private use, they're not permitted. Another one is reflective signs. So anything that reflects light is a public safety issue because it can reflect back onto the roadway and can potentially blind a motor vehicle driver. So reflective signs are not permitted. Another type is called off-site signs. Off-site signs are basically signs that are placed in the right-of-way area that are for a service that is not related to that adjacent property. So the best way I can give an example is you see we buy homes or windshield repair. Those individuals will place those signs throughout the city in the right of ways, and we basically pick them up and confiscate them because they're not permitted to be in our right of way to begin with. But they are considered off-site signs. So I would recommend not using those because eventually they will be picked up. The other ones is animated signs. So with animated signs, we do not allow animation because it can distract, again, motor vehicles. So you can have an electronic sign and you can use, imagery and messages, but it has to be static, and you have to have a 2-second transition between each image. That way it doesn't cause, like a strobe effect, or like it's not as distractive to a motor vehicle driver. And then the use of strobe lights and similar intermittent light devices. Again, it's all about public safety. It's about people that, can't that may have issues with strobe lights that cause seizures in some individuals. So those are, some of the reasons why we don't allow those. Again, if you have any questions about prohibited signs, and there are some more prohibited signs out there but these are the main ones that we see throughout the year. So currently right now I've completed my presentation. Obviously I kind of went through that pretty quickly, but if you have any questions whatsoever, my contact information is here. Again, my name is Jatred Archambault. I'm with the City of Mesa. My email address is right here, jared.archambault@mesaaz.gov. And then my phone number is 480-644-6410. Please reach out to me. My job is to educate and assist. So if you have any questions, you want to maximize your sign allowance, you want to make sure that your signs are accurate and correct to our ordinance, please reach out to me, because I would much rather educate people than have to go out and send you a notice or something like that and get you worried that you're doing something wrong. Again, this is educational, and we know a lot of people don't know where to look for all the sign stuff. So my job is to assist. So please use me as a resource. And if you need to get in touch with anybody else in the city, I can help facilitate that as well. So I do appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, again, reach out to me.
Hey, I have a question.
Sure.
Jared. So you will act as a consultative role. So you'll come out to the property and kind of just give them the guidance in terms of,
absolutely,
don't put this here. You can certainly do this, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I go out and I meet with businesses all the time, and I'll sit down and I'll say, well, these are the things you can do based on the zoning of your property, based on the size, because our zoning ordinance is based on the size of the properties for portable signage, and then with permanent signage, it's based on your suite frontage. So these are things just people don't know. So I am always more than willing to come out and meet with you, go over all that information, give you examples, show you examples of what you can do and where you can have your signs as well.
So this might be a curveball. I'm going to throw it out anyway. Vehicular signage. So people that convert box trucks into signs.
Yeah.
They put it on the side.
Absolutely.
Where does that fall in this?
So you are allowed to do vehicle signage. Vehicle signage has its own section under portable signs. With a vehicle sign, there are some criteria. So a vehicle sign is allowed as long as it is placed on a vehicle that's operable and registered. The second criteria is it has to be legally parked in a legal manner. So if it's in a parking lot, it has to be parked in a parking spot. You can't take up multiple parking spots because you have required parking, but you can park it in one of your parking spots. The other option is if the other criteria is if it's enacted for more than 48 hours, like it's not being moved around, you just have to place it either out of view of the right of way or place it as far as you can away from the right of way. So if it's not being in use, but they are allowed, you are able to do that. If you have any questions about vehicle signs, I like to promote that as well and give that as an option. So please reach out to me.
Cool. Talk a little bit about like the process, because a lot of business owners are mortified that of course once something's pointed out to them, it's like the end of the world. Talk a little bit about that process and kind of how that works for you guys.
So if you ever get a letter from me, it's going to be called a notice of violation. It sounds worse than it is. It's really a courtesy notice, basically saying, hey, we've recognized that there are some issues at the property related to signage, nuisance, or zoning. Signage would be, what you're permitted to have compared to what you're not. Zoning would be like the use of the property, how you're using it. And then nuisance would be, basically things like, overgrown grass, weeds, garbage, debris, stuff like that. So I would send a notice out. It would give you the corrective action. So I tell you what you need to do to fix it. And then it will tell you what the ordinance is. And then it would give you a certain amount of time to fix the issue, depending on what it is. So if it's a sign violation, so like if it's a permanent sign, like you need maintenance on your permanent signage, I would give 30 days for you guys to work on, repainting it or fixing any issues with that. And then the next step would be to communicate with me, contact me, because once that deadline comes, If you don't communicate with me and that issue doesn't arise, the next step would be the enforcement part. And we as a city want to be business friendly. So I always recommend to individuals, if you ever get a notice from me, it's not a citation unless it says civil citation on it. If it's a letter, it's just a notice of violation, and it's just a courtesy to educate you. So please reach out to me. Let's sit down and talk. I can maximize your sign allowance, make sure that you are in compliance. And it seems scarier than it is, but again, our main goal, from city management down, is education. And, we prefer education than anything else.
Cool. So you had mentioned that in a lot of cases it's signs of any size. So, smaller stuff, larger stuff, that kind of stuff. If it's small enough, are they able to bring it to you to review, or do you need to review it on site?
They can send me imagery. I don't need to actually be at the site to see it. As long as I get an image of it and then the proper dimensions, then I can determine if it's allowable or not. So for many zonings, there's like I said, a maximum size allowance, especially for portable. And you can always just send me the dimensions, and I can let you know if it fits within the ordinance. Window signage is another thing that I like to approve, because with window signage, you got to do the calculations of the length times width of the building to get the square foot, or length times width of the window to get the square footage, and then you got to figure out the percentage off of that. I can figure that out and let you know if what you have fits within the window signage, and then you'll get an email back from me, so it will say yes, this is allowed. So in the future, if anybody comes to you, then you say, oh well, I got this saying it's permitted. So we really encourage communication. I can provide documentation, and just get that education out.
So I'm trying to think of a good question in relation to window signage. So you had mentioned that the component of window signage that's allowed, the percentage of the window, encompasses images and graphics.
Correct.
So if they're going to put, let's say, they want to shade the window so that they don't want sun coming in directly, are they able to do the entire window and then only utilize that percentage where they put the images and the graphics, but the rest can still be shaded? Is that
correct?
Kind of how that works?
Yes. So as long as the imagery and text is only the 25% or 30%, depending on your zoning, then you can do that. I always recommend using tenting, because part of the reason for the window sign ordinance is public safety. The ordinance was enacted with consideration towards convenience stores that sell liquor and stuff like that. They were putting signs covering their entire windows, and when a call for service comes in, a police officer cannot evaluate the situation without going into the building. So that was part of the original reason behind it, is for the public safety part. So I always tell people you can tent them. You can do the perforation as long as the signage is only 25%. And that includes, like you said, the imagery.
Okay. Well, that was all the questions I had.
And again, we understand that the sign ordinance is complicated. So again, I am just here to educate and make sure everybody knows what's going on. So please communicate with me.
So definitely, if you're a new business, like if you're like, we just signed a lease, we're going to open up in 6 months. I mean, that's like the primo time to get a hold of you and say,
absolutely,
hey, before we open, can you come through and help us with what we can do?
Yeah, because you want to advertise that you're open. You want to make sure that you're visible, and there are means to do it. You can do fabric signs as long as they're the right size and you get the permit. You can do other signage like that rigid detached sign that will also draw business to you, because with those rigid detached, if you do a 3x4 metal sign that's attached to a post or stake that penetrates the ground, then you can change out the advertisement, with either a vinyl sticker or even I tell people, you can print stuff on magnets
Mm.
nowadays. So you can change them out that way. So I provide alternatives. I won't provide you with, where to go because we don't, which sign company to use, but we do provide different alternatives to your sign. So that way you can maximize your allowance, get the sign advertisement that you need, but not be in violation with the city, and spend money on things that you may not have or may not be allowed to have, like A-frame signs. They're not allowed in every zoning. They're only allowed in the downtown core and mixed use areas, just like the 30%. So if you use an A-frame in a commercial property and you spend the money on that, and I come back and tell you can't have it, that's just gonna be frustrating. So I always recommend reach out to me. I will tell you what you're allowed to have. I will provide you with alternatives as well. And it just ensures that you're not spending money on something that may potentially, not be allowed.
And you guys are available Monday through.
I'm available Monday through Thursday from basically 6 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay.
You can email me anytime. It goes straight to my emails, and I get it on the weekends and stuff like that. I don't respond on Saturdays and Sundays. So just, I'll get back to you on Monday. You can call and leave a message that gets to my voicemail as well. I'm pretty accessible, and I usually get back to people within the same day, unless it's, a Saturday or Sunday.
Cool. All right. Well, Jared, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to slide back over here real quick. All right. And get you back your coffee. There you go.
And I'm kind of.
And you're tangled. You're tangled behind me. I'm going to give you some space there to take care of it.
guys.
You're good. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today here on the Future of Retail Mesa meeting for October 2023. Thank you to Jared for joining us and being a part of this meeting and sharing some very good information. We are recording this meeting, so it will be available digitally for you to review after the meeting if for some reason you missed something or you just kind of want to watch it again. Otherwise, look for us to schedule our next meeting for January. And I think we do have a meeting in November, but I'll get you details on that. You can RSVP for any of the Future of Retail Mesa meetings online at the Mesa Chamber website, mesachamber.org. And you are certainly welcome to reach out to your favorite chamber staff member as well to get more details on future guests and what's happening. So thank you all for joining us today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and take care.